The morning sun streamed through the blinds, casting thin lines of light across my bedroom floor. I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at the pile of clothes I had thrown together the night before. They weren't just any clothes, they were my secret, my guilty pleasure, my way of becoming someone else for a few stolen hours. Most people had hobbies, video games, music, sports. Mine was different. I loved dressing up as a girl. I wasn't always this cautious about it. In high school, I experimented openly, often borrowing my sister's clothes when she wasn't home.
But things changed.
Now, at 22, living in a shared apartment with my sister Emma, I had to be stealthy. My passion for crossdressing had become something I indulged only in private, behind closed doors, with the risk of discovery looming over me like a storm cloud. Emma wasn't just my sister. She was the perfect mix of intimidating and sweet. She was beautiful, confident, and had a presence that could fill any room. People often said she was magnetic, and I couldn't help but agree. She was also meticulous, organized, and suspicious enough to make me nervous every time I tried to sneak into her room. But today was different. She had gone out for the weekend, leaving the apartment unusually quiet, and the opportunity was too tempting to resist. I glanced at the clock. 10:15 a.m. Perfect. Emma's old college friends were in town, and she had promised to meet them for brunch. That meant at least 3 uninterrupted hours of freedom. My heart pounded at the thought. I knew the rules. No leaving her room, no phone calls from neighbors, no chance encounters in the hallway. But the temptation was stronger than caution. I ran my fingers over the silky fabric of one of her dresses, a soft, pastel blue that had always caught my eye. Picking it up, I imagined the feeling of it against my skin, the way it would change the shape of my body, the way it would make me feel like me. My me, that no one else knew. My private self, hidden beneath layers of societal expectation and self-doubt. I was a crossdresser not out of necessity, not because someone forced me, but because it was a part of who I was. It made me feel alive, aware, and strangely powerful. Wearing a dress, painting my lips, slipping into heels. It wasn't about pretending to be someone else. It was about expressing a side of me that the world wouldn't accept. It was thrilling,
Terrifying.
liberating. And yet, there was always that fear, the fear of being caught, of having my secret exposed, of Emma walking in and seeing me not as her brother, but as something else entirely. The fear twisted in my stomach, but it didn't stop me. Instead, it heightened every sensation. Every touch of fabric, every brush of hair against my shoulders, felt electric. I glanced around the room. Emma's posters of travel destinations and fashion icons covered the walls, a reminder of her life and independence. Her vanity table gleamed under the morning sun, cluttered with perfumes, brushes, and makeup. Normally, I wouldn't dare touch anything. Today, though, it was a treasure trove waiting for me. My phone buzzed on the nightstand. A message from Emma. Brunch with the girls. Be back by 3, slightly smiling face. I smiled, feeling a mix of relief and anticipation. 3 hours. That was all I needed. I slipped off my jeans and hoodie, folding them neatly, almost ritualistically, before stepping into Emma's room. The door creaked slightly, and my heart jumped. I held my breath, listening for any sign of her return, but the apartment remained silent. I was alone. I approached her wardrobe, my hands trembling slightly as I opened it. Rows of clothes hung neatly, each piece telling a story of Emma's style and personality. My eyes were drawn to the blue dress again. Carefully, I took it out, inhaling its subtle perfume. It smelled like her, feminine, confident, and untouchable. I held it against my body, imagining it draped over me, the way it would transform me, if only for a few hours. The mirror in the corner caught my reflection. I hesitated, staring at my reflection. A young man with messy brown hair and nervous brown eyes, hiding a secret he dared not share. I could feel my heart racing, a strange mix of guilt and exhilaration flooding through me. Taking a deep breath, I stepped closer to the mirror. Just a few hours, I whispered to myself. No one will know. As I changed into the dress, I felt an immediate shift, not just in appearance, but in identity. The soft fabric slid over my skin, molding to my frame. I adjusted it carefully, tugging at the hem, smoothing out wrinkles, and marveling at the way it made me feel both exposed and beautiful. I reached for her makeup, my hands slightly unsteady, and began transforming my face. Foundation, subtle blush, eyeliner, mascara. Each stroke brought me closer to the person I wanted to be, the version of me that existed only in private moments like this. When I finally looked into the mirror, I barely recognized the person staring back. Soft brown eyes framed by delicate lashes, lips slightly glossy, hair cascading gently over my shoulders. I smiled, a mixture of nervousness, excitement, and satisfaction. I was Emma, in a way, yet entirely myself. And in this stolen identity, I felt a thrill that was impossible to describe. The apartment remained silent. Outside, the world went about its normal routine, unaware of the transformation happening in this small, quiet room. I moved carefully, adjusting her dress, feeling the unfamiliar sway of the fabric as I walked. Heels clicked softly on the wooden floor, a sound both foreign and exhilarating. Every sense was heightened: the smell of her perfume, the brush of hair on my skin, the sight of my altered reflection. I was walking a tightrope between fantasy and reality, craving the thrill while fearing the consequences. For a moment, I allowed myself to imagine the possibilities, what it would be like if someone saw me if I was caught, but also if I wasn't. What would Emma think? What would friends or neighbors say? The questions swirled in my mind, but I pushed them aside. Right now, there was only the sensation of being free, of stepping into a persona that was mine alone. And then, I heard it, a faint noise in the hallway. My heart lurched. Had Emma returned early? Or was it someone else? I froze, every muscle tense, listening. The sound faded. Relief washed over me, but the reminder of risk was stark. My secret life was precarious, balanced on the edge of exposure. And I had chosen to walk right to that edge. I took a deep breath, forcing my nerves to settle. Today was just the beginning. 3 hours of freedom, 3 hours to explore, to feel, to exist in a form the world didn't recognize. I glanced at the mirror one last time, tracing the curve of my cheeks, the line of my jaw. "You're beautiful," I whispered to myself, a small, private affirmation. The thrill coursing through me was undeniable, intoxicating. And yet, somewhere in the back of my mind, a tiny voice whispered, "What if you get caught? What if no one understands?" I shook my head, dismissing the fear for now. There would be time for worry later. For now, I had the room, the dress, the mirror, and a secret that felt like electricity running through my veins. Today, I would be someone else. Today, I would be free. The moment I slipped fully into Emma's dress, I felt like I had crossed an invisible line. It wasn't just clothing. It was a transformation, a shift in identity that thrilled me and terrified me at the same time. My heart raced with the thrill of the forbidden. I glanced at the mirror again. This reflection, a perfect mix of Emma's elegance and my secret persona, was intoxicating. I moved carefully across the room, feeling the soft sway of the dress with each step, the click of the heels on the wooden floor echoing in the empty apartment. Each sound seemed amplified in the silence, reminding me of how alone, and yet exposed, I was. The risk of discovery added a heady tension. Any sudden noise, any unexpected visitor, could ruin everything. As I adjusted the dress around my waist, smoothing out the fabric, I felt a knot of anxiety twist in my stomach. Why did I always feel so guilty for indulging in something that made me happy? The thrill of crossdressing had always been paired with this gnawing fear, fear of judgment, of rejection, of being seen as less than myself. Part of me longed for someone to notice, to appreciate the transformation. Another part screamed at me to hide, to retreat into my normal, safe identity. The conflicting emotions churned inside me, making my pulse quicken. I touched the brush of my hair against my shoulders and remembered how liberating it felt to escape into this persona. But the nagging question lingered. What if Emma came back early? What if someone else found me like this? I moved toward Emma's vanity, each step deliberate. Her collection of makeup lay neatly organized: foundation, blush, eyeshadow palettes, lipsticks in every shade imaginable. My fingers trembled as I picked up the soft, rose-colored foundation. The first brush of it on my skin felt surreal, almost sacred. Layer by layer, I sculpted my face, smoothing, blending, enhancing. The mirror reflected not just a different face, but a different self, a me that existed only in this room, under these stolen hours. Blush swept across my cheeks gave me a healthy glow. Eyeshadow, delicate yet bold, framed my eyes. Mascara made my lashes fan out perfectly, and finally I applied lipstick, careful not to overdo it. The color made my lips look full and inviting. For a moment, I barely recognized the reflection. It was thrilling, a rush like nothing else. I couldn't stop smiling, though part of me remained hyper-aware of the potential danger lurking in every corner. The dress felt like a second skin. I adjusted the hem, tugged the fabric, and twirled slowly. The movement, the sway of the dress, the click of heels, it was intoxicating. I ran my fingers through my hair, styled it like Emma would, and finally slipped into her favorite perfume. The scent enveloped me, a signature of Emma's presence now worn by me. It was almost like stepping into her life, even if just for a fleeting moment. As the physical transformation took hold, so did the emotional one. I felt confidence I rarely accessed in my normal life. My posture straightened, shoulders lifted, and a subtle sway took over my walk. Yet, under the thrill, the anxiety never completely disappeared. Every sound, the distant hum of traffic, the soft creak of the apartment, set my nerves on edge. I knew the line between exhilaration and exposure was thin, and one wrong sound could shatter the illusion. Despite this, I reveled in the vulnerability. Standing there, fully dressed as Emma, I felt a strange sense of empowerment. I had nothing to prove, no one to impress, and yet I felt seen by myself, if no one else. Each movement, each glance in the mirror reinforced the identity I had long suppressed. The apartment remained silent. My phone buzzed, an incoming call, a neighbor's name flashing across the screen. My heart stopped. I froze, balancing carefully on the heels, praying they wouldn't leave a voicemail or worse, ring the doorbell. Fortunately, it went to voicemail. I exhaled slowly, a shiver running down my spine. Each small sound became magnified: the wind against the window, the distant footsteps in the hallway, even the soft hum of the refrigerator. Time stretched, each minute filled with heightened awareness. I moved through the apartment cautiously, testing the boundaries of my secret space. I sat on Emma's bed, adjusting the dress, feeling the soft sheets beneath me. I reached for a hairbrush, running it through my styled hair, and allowed myself a moment to admire my reflection. But then I heard it, a faint click in the hallway, too deliberate to be the building settling. My heart leapt. I froze, holding my breath. A shadow passed under the door. Emma? I thought, but no, it couldn't be her, not yet. My mind raced, calculating escape routes, imagining every worst-case scenario. The tension was unbearable. I crept toward the door, glancing out of the peephole. No one was there. Relief washed over me, but only briefly. The fear never completely left. It was like a low, constant hum beneath the excitement. I realized that living this secret life, even for a few hours, came with a constant companion: the thrill of being caught. And in that thrill, I found both my fear and my excitement intertwined, inseparable. Once the immediate tension passed, I allowed myself to explore further. I tried on a pair of Emma's earrings, marveling at how they caught the light. I twirled in front of the mirror, listening to the soft swish of the dress. Each motion made me more aware of the differences: the way my body felt, the sway of the fabric, the new weight of confidence I carried. I felt lighter, freer, almost invincible in this persona. I even tried on a second outfit, a soft lavender dress with lace detailing. Each change brought a new wave of emotion, a new thrill, and a new set of worries. What if someone saw me like this? What if Emma walked in unexpectedly? And yet, the risk only heightened the exhilaration. A single heel slipped under the bed, unnoticed at first. I reached for it, feeling a small pang of anxiety. What if Emma noticed it missing later? The shoe became a symbol of my dual existence, delicate, precarious, and dangerously exposed. I placed it carefully back on the floor and continued to adjust my wig, feeling its weight and texture against my scalp. Every detail mattered. Every small adjustment brought me closer to the persona I had longed to inhabit. As I moved from mirror to vanity, from bed to wardrobe, I sensed the apartment itself amplifying the suspense. Shadows seemed to stretch unnaturally. Noises became signals of danger. Each step I took was calculated, cautious, a delicate balance between freedom and exposure. The thrill of transformation now intertwined with the pulse of suspense. By the time the first hour passed, I had fully immersed myself in Emma's identity. My reflection, the dress, the perfume, the wig, and the heels, all became extensions of a persona that was thrillingly real. And yet, beneath it all, the fear lingered, a reminder that this stolen moment of freedom was fragile, and one misstep could unravel everything. The apartment felt smaller now, every shadow deeper, every noise magnified. Hours had passed since I first slipped into Emma's dress, and the thrill of transformation had merged with a gnawing anxiety. I moved through her room like a dancer on a tightrope, careful not to disturb anything. Yet, despite every precaution, I couldn't shake the feeling that the walls themselves were watching me, ready to reveal my secret at any moment. Then it happened. A sharp, deliberate knock at the apartment door. My heart lurched violently, and my body froze. The sound echoed through the hallway, a hammer against the fragile world I had built. My mind raced. Emma? A neighbor? Someone from the building? Each possibility was worse than the last. I clutched the hem of the dress, my fingers trembling. My reflection in the mirror stared back at me, soft, feminine, beautiful, but behind the eyes was raw panic. The knock came again, more insistent. I had no choice but to act. I tiptoed to the door, balancing carefully on the heels, my body tense. Through the peephole, I saw a delivery man holding a large package. Relief flooded me, but it was fleeting. The doorbell buzzed again, a neighbor, perhaps Jew. I opened the door just enough to take the package. The delivery man handed it over without a word, and I retreated quickly, holding the box like a shield. Every sound, the creak of the floorboards, the rustle of the dress, felt amplified. My pulse raced, and a bead of sweat slid down my temple. I set the package down on Emma's bed and collapsed against it, breathing heavily. My reflection in the mirror caught my eye again. The thrill of crossdressing was now tangled with the adrenaline of near discovery. Every nerve in my body was alive, alert, and desperate to maintain the illusion. The anxiety was matched only by the exhilaration. I felt alive in a way I rarely did, as if every heartbeat, every nervous twitch, was magnified. I was aware of my vulnerability, heels clicking too loudly, wig slipping slightly, a dress hem too high, but also aware of my power, the ability to inhabit Emma's persona, if only temporarily. I approached the mirror, adjusting the wig, smoothing the dress, applying a quick touch of blush to cover the slight smudge on my cheek. Each movement was meticulous, rehearsed, a defense against exposure. Yet beneath it all, a part of me thrilled in the risk. Just as I began to relax, another knock echoed through the apartment. This time it was different, soft, hesitant, familiar. My stomach dropped. I tiptoed to the door and peered through the peephole. It was Emma's best friend, Lily. She had a key. Panic surged through me. I had no choice but to act quickly. My mind raced for explanations, excuses, anything to maintain the charade. I opened the door with a shaky smile. Hey, Emma's out. She asked me to grab something for her. I stammered, trying to sound casual. Lily's eyes narrowed slightly, her gaze sweeping over my outfit, my hair, my makeup. Okay, she said, hesitation in her voice. She didn't say anything about you being here like this. The panic threatened to choke me. My hands gripped the edges of the doorframe, knuckles white. I realized that a single misstep, a single awkward word, could expose everything. As Lily stepped in, I adjusted the dress again, tugging at the hem, smoothing the fabric over my hips. One of the heels slipped under the bed unnoticed. I retrieved it silently, feeling the symbolic weight of that small object, a reminder of my precarious balance between freedom and exposure. We moved toward the living room to drop the package, and I realized the mirror in the hallway caught our reflections. I avoided it heart-pounding. In that reflection, my dual selves, the me and the Emma persona, merged into a single, tense image of fear and exhilaration. Lily lingered, glancing around, curiosity piqued. "You look different," she said carefully. My pulse raced. Every word, every glance, could give me away. I forced a laugh, masking the fear. "Yeah." Emma said I could borrow her dress? For fun. Her eyes lingered on me, searching. You're really convincing," she said finally, a faint smile forming. My relief was tempered by tension. She was close, too close, to uncovering the truth. The combination of fear and excitement hit me like a wave. My mind raced with possibilities. Should I confess? Pretend further? Retreat to Emma's room? Each choice carried consequences, none of them safe. I felt exposed, vulnerable, yet alive in a way I had never been. I could feel my body reacting, the flush in my cheeks, the tremor in my hands, the subtle sway as I moved. Every gesture was amplified, every movement charged with tension. The thrill of the cross-dressing experience was now inseparable from the risk of discovery. Just as I thought I had survived the visit, Lily moved closer to the mirror. "I almost didn't recognize you," she whispered, leaning in. My heart stopped. My mind scrambled. Should I step back, explain, or distract her? I grabbed a cushion from the couch, holding it in front of me. "Haha, it's just a joke. Emma wouldn't mind," I said, voice cracking slightly. Lily raised an eyebrow, clearly skeptical, but didn't push further. She left after a few tense minutes, and the apartment fell silent again. Alone once more, I sank onto Emma's bed, legs crossed, hands trembling slightly. I stared at the mirror, tracing the line of my jaw, the curve of my lips. In that reflection, I saw two lives, one public, one hidden, both colliding in this small room. The exhilaration of being caught and the vulnerability of being exposed were intertwined, inseparable. The heels, the dress, the wig, even the fallen shoe under the bed, they were symbols of my secret life. I realized that this experience, thrilling as it was, came with a price: the constant anxiety of discovery, the need for careful navigation, and the weight of deception. As I adjusted the dress one final time, I heard the faintest creak from the hallway. My pulse quickened. Was it Emma? Had she returned early? Or was it someone else entirely? The sound seemed to echo in slow motion, each second stretching into eternity. I froze, eyes locked on the hallway, every nerve alert. The apartment, the dress, the heels, the mirror, everything was poised on a knife's edge. The thrill of transformation and the fear of discovery had merged into a single, overwhelming moment. I barely breathed, heart pounding, waiting, hoping, fearing. The apartment was silent once more, but the silence no longer felt safe. It was thick, heavy, almost oppressive. Every creak of the floorboards, every whisper of wind against the windows, seemed to signal an approaching threat. I sat on Emma's bed, the pastel blue dress clinging to me, the heels pinching slightly at my toes, and stared at the mirror. My reflection stared back, flawless, feminine, and utterly exposed. I tried to calm my racing heart. I told myself Emma wouldn't be home for hours, that the world outside was oblivious to my secret. But deep down I knew better. Every sound, every shadow, every footstep could reveal me in an instant. A soft tap at the bedroom door made me jump, nearly toppling off the bed. My breath caught in my throat. Not Emma. Please, not Emma. I pressed myself against the wall, clutching the dress to my chest. The doorknob rattled slightly. My mind raced through options. Should I hide under the bed? Grab a throw pillow as a shield? Or confront the visitor head-on, trying to maintain the illusion of being Emma herself? Every second stretched into an eternity, each heartbeat thundering in my ears. I realized then that this wasn't just about wearing a dress or slipping into a persona. This was about survival, navigating a precarious line between identity, secrecy, and exposure. One wrong move could undo hours of careful planning, hours of thrilling transformation, and hours of exhilaration. The door slowly creaked open, and I held my breath, frozen in place. I could see a shadow in the doorway, and my stomach twisted in panic. Was it Emma? Had she come back early? Or worse, was it Lily returning for a second look? The shadow moved closer, and I could just make out the shape of the person. My chest tightened. I barely recognized myself anymore in this role, and yet I had to act. My hands shook as I straightened the dress, adjusted my wig, and forced a casual smile in the mirror's reflection. Hi, I whispered, my voice catching. No answer. Just a pause. The figure hesitated in the doorway, then moved slightly, as if sizing me up. My heart pounded in my ears, and I could feel every bead of sweat on my skin. The dress, the heels, the makeup, all of it suddenly felt fragile, like it could shatter with the slightest disturbance. I wanted to run, to hide, to abandon this borrowed identity and return to safety. But something inside me held firm, a mixture of pride, defiance, and the strange thrill that had drawn me to crossdressing in the first place. I couldn't let fear override this moment, even if it meant risking exposure. The shadow leaned forward slightly. A voice, calm but questioning, finally broke the silence. You're Emma? My stomach lurched. I tried to form words, to keep the lie alive, but my mind went blank. Every instinct screamed at me, urging me to confess, to run, to hide. Yet, the thrill of the secret, the dangerous exhilaration of being caught yet unseen, rooted me in place. Yeah, I stammered, barely above a whisper, hoping it was convincing enough. The figure's eyes narrowed, scanning me from head to toe. The silence stretched, each second agonizing. I could feel my reflection in the mirror watching me too, my two selves merging, the man I was and the persona I had created. Then, a sudden sound from the hallway, a footstep, deliberate and heavy, made me flinch violently. My heart jumped into my throat. Whoever it was, they were coming closer, and the fragile illusion I had built teetered on the edge of collapse. I pressed myself closer to the wall, clutching the fabric of the dress, the heels digging into my feet. My pulse raced. This is it, I thought. One more step, one more sound, and it's over. The shadow in the doorway froze. A moment of hesitation passed, and then a hand reached toward the doorframe. My breath caught. I could hear the faint rustle of clothing, the subtle intake of breath. And then, the scene froze in suspense. The sound of a key turning in the lock echoed from the hallway. The bedroom door creaked open slowly.
My heart slammed.
I couldn't move. I couldn't speak. I was trapped between two worlds, the person I had always been, and the persona I had stolen for a few fleeting hours. And in that frozen moment, the screen of my life seemed to blur. The reflection in the mirror looked back at me, questioning, daring, and thrilling all at once. Would Emma discover me? Would my secret finally be exposed? Would the thrill of transformation end in disaster? Or would I somehow survive? The story hung there, unresolved. Every viewer left at the edge, hearts racing, minds spinning, desperate to know who had really entered the room, and what would happen next.